I was surrounded by 3 alien hunters in the forest. Then something unexpected happened. The encounter in Shadow Grove. The Shadow Grove had always felt alive to Kira Vendale, but tonight it seemed to breathe with purpose. She knelt beside a cluster of violet fungi that glowed like tiny moons, carefully collecting samples in glass vials. The celestial alignment overhead painted the forest in silver light, making everything shimmer with otherworldly beauty. Her compass had stopped working an hour ago. Kira told herself it was the magnetic anomalies in the soil, something she'd documented before. But as she stood and looked around, nothing seemed familiar. The ancient trees twisted in directions that defied her memory, and the usual sounds of nocturnal creatures had fallen silent. Lost, aren't you? Kira's heart jumped. She spun around to find 3 figures standing in a semicircle around her, each draped in clothing that seemed woven from starlight itself. They carried devices that hummed with soft energy, casting pale blue light across their faces. The tallest stepped forward, his presence commanding yet calm. I am Zephan. These are my companions, Kalith and Senna. We mean you no harm, but you've wandered into restricted territory. Kira's mind raced. Their features were humanoid but distinctly different, eyes that held depths of distant galaxies, skin that seemed to catch and hold the moonlight. Who? What are you? Guardians, said the second figure, Kalith, her voice like wind through leaves. We protect what lies beneath. But it was the third who stepped closer, and Kira found herself looking into eyes filled with unexpected gentleness. Senna's expression softened as she observed Kira's trembling hands. You're afraid. That's wise, but unnecessary. We don't harm those who stumble upon us innocently. Senna lowered her device, and the gesture felt significant.
Come?
We'll explain everything. Breaking through fear. Senna led Kira away from the others, following a path illuminated by mushrooms that pulsed with rhythmic light. The forest seemed to respond to Senna's presence, branches parting gently as they walked. Kira's initial terror began to fade, replaced by curious wonder. How long have you been here? Kira asked, her voice steadier now. Time moves differently for us, Senna replied, settling beside a stream where the water glowed with silver luminescence. We exist between moments, watching over the threshold that connects your world to ours. It's a lonely existence. Kira sat nearby, drawn by the vulnerability in Senna's words. I understand loneliness. My research takes me to places no one else cares about. Forgotten corners of the world, studying things people think are insignificant. Senna turned to face her fully, and in the moonlight, Kira could see the depth of emotion in those extraordinary eyes. Nothing that grows and thrives is insignificant. Your dedication to understanding life, that's rare. Beautiful, even. A comfortable silence settled between them. Kira found herself studying Senna's features, the way starlight seemed to dance across her skin, the gentle curve of her smile. When Senna reached toward a glowing flower, their hands accidentally brushed. The touch sent an unexpected warmth through Kira's entire body, like electricity but softer, more profound. Senna gasped quietly, her eyes widening. Did you feel that? Yes, Kira whispered. What was it? Recognition, Senna said softly. My people believe that souls call to each other across dimensions. I've never experienced it before. She hesitated, then gently took Kira's hand fully in hers. Tell me more about your world. About you. They talked through the night, sharing stories of their vastly different lives that somehow mirrored each other, both dedicated to protecting and understanding, both isolated by their purposes. As Senna laughed at one of Kira's stories about a research mishap, Kira realized she'd never felt so seen by anyone. When Senna's fingers traced gentle patterns on Kira's palm, neither pulled away. The rift's awakening. The ground trembled violently, shattering the intimate moment. Senna was on her feet instantly, her device activating with urgent pulses. The gateway, something's wrong. Kira stumbled as another tremor hit, but Senna caught her, steadying her with surprising strength. Zephan and Kalith appeared through the trees, their expressions grave. The seal is breaking, Zephan announced. Something is forcing its way through. A terrible sound split the air, part raw, part dimensional tear. Through the trees, Kira could see reality itself seeming to split open, revealing darkness that writhed with malevolent hunger. A creature emerged, its form constantly shifting, composed of shadows that consumed light. It's been corrupted by the space between worlds, Kalith explained, raising her weapon. We must drive it back before it fully manifests. Kira's scientific mind raced even as fear threatened to paralyze her. She'd spent years studying the forest's energy patterns, the way bioluminescent organisms channeled natural forces. Wait, the fungi, the crystals in the caves nearby, they all resonate with specific frequencies. Could that affect it? Senna's eyes lit with understanding. You're thinking we can use the forest's own energy as a weapon? Or a cage, Kira said, confidence growing. I can show you the patterns, the nodes where energy concentrates. If we can activate them simultaneously. Zephyr nodded sharply. Then we work together. Kira, guide us. Senna, stay with her. As the shadow creature advanced, tearing through trees like paper, Kira led them through the forest with newfound purpose. Senna moved beside her, their bodies falling into an instinctive synchronization. When Kira stumbled over roots, Senna was there. When Senna needed to know which direction, Kira anticipated. There, Kira pointed to formations of crystalline stone. Those are the key points. The creature howled, sensing their plan. It charged toward them, and Senna immediately positioned herself between Kira and the danger, the battle and the bond. The shadow creature lunged with impossible speed, but Senna moved faster. Her device transformed into a shield of pure energy, deflecting the attack that would have torn through Kira. The force sent them both tumbling backward into the soft moss. Kalith, the northern crystal. Zephyr shouted, his own weapon firing controlled bursts that seemed to slow the creature's movements. Kira scrambled to her feet, pulling Senna up with her. The formations need to be activated in sequence. North, east, south, then west. It'll create a containment field using the forest's natural electromagnetic currents. Smart and brave, Senna murmured, admiration clear in her voice. Stay behind me. They moved as one through the chaos. Kira directed while Senna protected, their movements becoming increasingly fluid, almost like a dance choreographed by instinct rather than practice. When Kalith activated the northern point, the forest responded with a surge of violet light that made the creature recoil. East! Kira called out, and Senna was already moving, pulling Kira along as they raced to the next formation. But the creature adapted, splitting its form to attack from multiple directions. A tendril of shadow whipped toward Kira's exposed back. Senna threw herself into its path, taking the blow that sent her crashing against an ancient tree trunk. Senna! Kira's scream tore from her throat as she rushed to where Senna had fallen. Dark energy crackled across Senna's shoulder and arm, causing visible pain. Kira dropped to her knees beside her, hands hovering uncertainly. What do I do? How do I help you? The creature's energy is toxic, Senna managed through gritted teeth. But your plants, some might neutralize it. Kira's training took over. She quickly gathered leaves from nearby moonblossom vines, crushing them to release their sap. This has antivenin properties. I've used it for snake bites. Her hands worked with gentle precision, applying the mixture to Senna's wound. As Kira worked, their faces were close, breath mingling in the charged air. Senna's hand found Kira's, squeezing it. Thank you, she whispered. I've protected this gateway for decades, fought countless threats, but no one has ever cared for me like this. I couldn't lose you, Kira admitted, her voice breaking. Not when I've just found you. Their eyes locked, and the world seemed to narrow to just this moment. Senna lifted her uninjured hand to cup Kira's cheek, thumb brushing away a tear Kira hadn't realized had fallen. We need to finish this, Senna said softly. Together. Together, Kira confirmed. With renewed determination, they rejoined the battle. The moonblossom sap had already begun healing Senna's wound, allowing her to fight with restored strength. Kira guided them to the remaining crystal points, her knowledge of the forest proving invaluable. When Zephyr activated the final western point, the 4 energy nodes connected in a brilliant web of light. The shadow creature found itself trapped within the geometric pattern, its form compressing and destabilizing. "Now," Zephan commanded, "channel everything into the gateway." All three hunters combined their energy, and with Kira's understanding of the resonance frequencies, they created a force that pulled the creature back through the dimensional tear. With a final, defeated howl, it vanished. The rift sealed with a sound like the universe itself sighing in relief. Silence returned to Shadow Grove, broken only by their heavy breathing. Dawn's promise. The eastern sky had begun to lighten with the soft colors of approaching dawn. The four of them stood near the now sealed gateway, exhaustion written across their features but also profound relief. "You saved us," Kalith said to Kira, respect evident in her tone. "Without your knowledge, we would have failed." Zephan nodded in agreement. "Few humans would have had the courage to stand with us. Fewer still the wisdom to understand what needed to be done." But Kira barely heard them. Her attention was fixed on Senna, who stood slightly apart, gazing at the lightening sky with an expression of such sadness that it made Kira's heart ache. "You're leaving," Kira said quietly, moving to stand beside her. "The alignment that allowed us to maintain physical presence here is ending," Senna confirmed. "When the sun fully rises, we must return to our realm." The unfairness of it struck Kira like a physical blow. "We just met. This can't be all the time we have." Senna turned to face her, reaching up to unfasten something from around her neck, a pendant that seemed to contain a fragment of living starlight. It pulsed with a rhythm that Kira realized matched a heartbeat. "This is connected to my life force," Senna explained, placing it carefully in Kira's hands. "As long as I exist, it will glow. As long as you hold it, I'll feel your presence, no matter how many dimensions separate us." "Will I see you again?" Kira's voice trembled. "The celestial alignment happens once every cycle. I'll return to this spot, to you, when the stars allow it." Senna stepped closer, their bodies nearly touching. "Kira Vendale, in all my years of guarding the threshold between worlds, I never expected to find someone who would make me wish I could stay." Kira's hand moved to cradle Senna's face, fingers trembling with emotion. "I've spent my whole life studying the mysteries of nature, but you're the most extraordinary discovery I've ever made." The first ray of sunlight broke through the trees, and Senna's form began to shimmer, becoming translucent. Time was running out. "May I?" Senna whispered, leaning closer. In answer, Kira closed the distance between them. Their lips met softly, tentatively at first, then with growing passion and desperate tenderness. The kiss tasted of starlight and moonflowers, of promises and possibilities. Senna's arms wrapped around Kira, holding her as if she could anchor herself to this world through sheer will. The pendant between them flared brilliantly, warm against their pressed bodies. When they finally parted, both had tears streaming down their faces. "I'll wait for you," Kira promised. "Every cycle, I'll be here. And I'll cross every barrier between our worlds to return to you," Senna vowed. Zephan and Kalith had already begun to fade, their forms dissolving into particles of light. Senna took one step back, then another, her hand outstretched toward Kira until the last possible moment. "Remember," Senna called as she became almost completely transparent, "love that transcends worlds is the strongest force in any universe." Then she was gone, leaving only the morning light filtering through the trees and the gently pulsing pendant in Kira's palm. Kira stood alone in Shadow Grove, but she didn't feel abandoned. The pendant's rhythm matched her own heartbeat now, a constant reminder that somewhere across the dimensions, Senna's heart beat in the same rhythm. She pressed the pendant to her lips, then to her heart. The forest had returned to its peaceful morning sounds, birds singing, insects humming, life continuing its eternal cycle. But Kira knew she would never see it the same way again. She had learned that the universe was far larger and more wondrous than she'd imagined, that connection could form in moments and last across eternities, and that sometimes being surrounded in the darkness leads you to the brightest light. As she finally found her way back to the forest's edge, Kira looked up at the fading stars. "Until we meet again," she whispered. The pendant pulsed warmly in response, and somehow, Kira knew Senna had heard her. Lessons from beyond the stars. True love recognizes no boundaries, not of distance, dimension, or difference. When two souls resonate, the universe itself conspires to unite them. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act with compassion and purpose despite it, for the bravest hearts are those willing to trust in the unknown. Connection requires vulnerability. Opening yourself to another, sharing your loneliness and dreams, transforms isolation into profound intimacy that transcends all separation. Love is a promise, not a possession. It flourishes in freedom and faith, trusting that what is meant to be will find its way back, no matter how many worlds lie between.